Thanks for joining me today, Tsahi. We're going to talk about AI and the WebRTC marketplace a bit today. You've told me that you feel programmable video is leading the way in AI technology adoption and doing a better job of it than CPaaSs. Tell me a little bit more about
Yes.
that.
So when I did my generative AI and WebRTC workshop, I went to see what different vendors are doing. It's important to do your research. And when you look at that, you start looking at what the leading vendors in voice and SMS do. And then you see what the video centric vendors are doing. It's not the same things.
Mhm.
So when you go to the voice vendors, there are two things that you see. Either they add something that is, it's already prepackaged in there. You can call a number. There is a chatbot that was already placed there. They decided what speech to text and text to speech engines are going to be used for you. What is the LLM that is going to be used? You can provide RAG or whatever, or knowledge base, links, documents, uploads, whatever. That's it. Or you can go and do the Flow Studio thing where you put a box after a box, and what you do there is you add a box with the word LLM on it, and whatever. You get text in, text out, and that's the end of it. The most weird or interesting one that I found was actually Telnix, where what they seem to be wanting to do is they say something like we're AWS, which again made little sense to me, but fine. Um, they sell their own GPUs to run whatever models you want, or out of the model, 20 different models that exist, you can run on their machines instead of running that in a different cloud. So that gives you like maybe lower latency, different cost, scaling, whatever. But it doesn't feel like something that a CPaaS vendor should be doing. They're likely doing that simply because they're saying the same about their carrier network, that they own the network and not use less
Mhm.
third parties than others.
Right.
But at the end of the day, when you look at it, the mindset of the CPaaS vendors or the ones doing voice and SMS is for AI is the same as what they do for voice and SMS, for phone numbers, which means let's think about CPaaS. CPaaS does something, let's dumb it down. What they do is provide aggregation of telcos.
Mhm.
I look at all the telcos in the world, or enough of them, one or two per country, because I need numbers in all countries. I go do a contract with them. I integrate with their APIs or interfaces, and I abstract that from my customer, giving them my own set of APIs. Now, the end user or the end developer doesn't really care if the call goes through Verizon or AT&T or T-Mobile or whoever. He just wants the call to go through and the quality to be good. Oh,
Mhm.
and the price to be low. Or he wants the deliverability of the message to be high and the price to be low. Things like that. So at the end of the day, there is no competition about the type of service, but rather about the quality of a service that is uniform across carriers the world over.
Mhm.
Now, if you go with that mindset of saying, well, what is our core business? We provide aggregation of carriers, and our barrier of entry is our contracts with the carriers and the fact that we offer, we simplify the interfaces for you. That's nice. Now you take that and try to copy it to the world of AI, and you say the same things. You've got OpenAI and Gemini and Claude and whoever. It's all LLMs. So our customer doesn't really care as long as we give him prompts. He will be happy. And
Mhm.
you look at the text to speech and speech to text and say, well, what's the main? What difference does it make if you use Amazon Lex or something else? Or you go and say, well, we'll take 11 labs on the text to speech, DeepGram on the speech to text because they are the market leaders. We're done. That's it. Um, it doesn't work like that. That's the only problem that you have. Um, and when you look at what the programmable video vendors are doing, the video API vendors, especially today, Agora, LiveKit, and Daily, which are in a way leading that front, is actually built a full-fledged AI frameworks. All
Mhm.
three are
Yep.
using open source for that. So they built that in open source. And now they're starting to provide cloud hosting of these as well.
Hmm.
where the main premise there says two things. First of all, I have no clue what it is that you want to build. I don't know. Because when you want to build a video use case, I don't have a clue what you want to build. It's one-on-one, one-to-many, a group call, small group, large group. I just don't know. What's the resolution of it? It's like there's too much variance there, same as there is with AI.
Yeah.
Unlike voice and SMS, which is just voice and SMS. Um, so they came towards that and said, well, let's build the whole pipeline, work on the latencies, do the things that we know how to do for video on AI. And because there are too many partners, we're not going to be too opinionated on which the partners are. We're just going to bake into the framework the ability to add additional partners in the future.
Yeah.
And you see things like Pipecat supporting 50 or 60 integrations with different AI vendors today, and LiveKit probably the same number, or 50 or 40, something like that, and 10 doing, which is Agora, doing large numbers as well. So they're like, if you want Russian or Chinese or Indian or a different accent, that's fine. You
Right.
just either use what's there already or add your own, because it's open source, so you can just add that kind of an interface or integration. And it ends up being more in line, I think, with what the industry needs, at least at this point in time, not 2 or 3 years into the future when, consolidation, less vendors, less whatever, but today it makes a lot more sense. That's what I wanted to say.
No, I agree, and I think it's an important observation because right now there are a lot of different models. There might be consolidation in the future, as you said, around a few central ones. Even if we get to that point of kind of like we've seen in WebRTC and communication space, even where you have consolidation around a few particular vendors, there's always going to be others who serve a particular niche, right? There's always going to be, just like in the WebRTC space, somebody who does a better job with large scale broadcasting, right?
Yeah.
Versus contact centers or whatever. And in the LLM space, you're going to see the same thing. Somebody who deals with particular accents or particular industry verticals better. And so I think it's really smart for these companies to have that infrastructure and to have that infrastructure be flexible, because for us as developers using that, it gives us an incentive to stay with them as the framework, even as we're changing models and over time as different models come out and offer different capabilities. So I think it's really important. And I think and just to kind of like quickly define, like a CPaaS is that larger umbrella of people who also provide voice and SMS. Programmable video may be part of that, but then what we're talking about, the people who seem to be doing a better job of offering AI capabilities and more flexibly, are those who tend to be more focused on WebRTC based video and voice,
Exactly.
as opposed to those who have kind of this carryover from a more legacy telco industry, right? And so, do you think that sort of telco inspiration, that telco history that the larger CPaaS providers have, that is that what's kind of holding them back from thinking
I
in this
think
different
so.
way?
Yes, I think so, because I've worked with companies and I worked inside companies in the past, and you see that companies usually will have their own echo chamber.
Mm-hmm.
We know how things work. We do it on a day-to-day basis. We see our customers. This is what our customers ask from us. So this is what everybody wants. It's like, that's obvious. I had a discussion recently, a back and forth over email with someone because of my API report, and he wasn't happy with some of the scoring and whatnot. And I tried to explain to him that the fact that his customers are so happy about the product doesn't mean that he sees the market or the whole market, because there are others that don't even come and talk to him because whatever he has doesn't have the flexibility that they need.
Yeah.
And I think that in many ways, the voice people see only these use cases, and within these use cases, they're likely focused on contact centers, and
Mm-hmm.
in there on agentic AI in the form of, let's replace the contact center agent with a bot. That's
Mm-hmm.
one. And the other one would be, let's do transcription, and then from there, create summaries and dashboards and whatnot. And when this is the mindset that you have, then when someone comes in and says, well, I need to be able to do, I don't know, a group call that gets simultaneous translation of all languages, that's, well, we can't. Or
Right.
I want to be able to also provide video or look at video and do vision type of a use case within your platform. And then the
Yeah.
answer is you can't, but if you use that directly, and then so it becomes kind of a half-baked solution for someone that needs something that is not rather focused on what CPaaS vendors are now looking at, and they're not looking at the whole market anymore.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. And perhaps that will, be fine for them given their customer
Yep.
base and kind of, the market niche that they want to serve. But yeah, you've mentioned a few good examples of leaders in the space on the programmable video and AI side, Agora with 10, Daily with Pipecast, LiveKit with their real-time agents.
Mhm.
And, even though they're more, maybe come from more of a CPaaS background, I think it's interesting also like SignalWire's talking about AI as an agent infrastructure too. So that may be a case where there's a little bit of a blend between those different perspectives and looking at it.
Yes,
It'll be
so
interesting to see.
that's true. I looked at that, but what they did was added that into their scripting,
Mm-hmm.
which is okay-ish. But then again, how do you pick and choose the algorithms that you want, and can
Right.
you use your own algorithm or a third-party algorithm, or how do you? The answer is no, you can't.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's where things become murky or challenging again today. And not for all companies, but for those that are doing things that are a bit more complicated, which
Right.
means video.
Right. Yep.
Um,
Yeah. Yeah. Video and more unique LLM integrations, which
yes.
is, I think the areas that are of particular interest to people like you and
Yes.
I.
Look at what Daily is talking about all the time. So, and LiveKit, turn detection and stuff. And how do you do that?
Mm-hmm.
You do that with VAD, voice activity detection, or do it with an SLM, a small language model instead? And how do you build that? In what languages that you need to support?
Mm-hmm.
And then there is a question of how do you go and reduce latency throughout the pipeline?
Yep.
And one of the things that Daily came out with a few months back was let's run everything on the same Docker container. So speech to text, text to speech, LLM, single Docker, everything there. You can't do it with a cloud vendor anymore because it's like you need to host it somewhere and that needs to be
Mm-hmm.
close to your actual vendor.
Yeah.
And if you think about it today, all of these algorithms are getting consumed from the cloud, but you don't really know where. Does OpenAI run their servers on AWS, on Azure, on something else? So if my CPaaS vendor runs on AWS and OpenAI runs on Azure, and I'm going to use text to speech that might be on, I don't know, Google Cloud, just because
Mm-hmm.
that the vendor that I chose works on, I'm going to take my audio and move it, from one cloud to another, ping ponging just to get the things that I needed. Just moving that back and forth is going to not only be a pricing issue, but mostly a latency issue that I'm introducing into a problem where what we're trying to achieve is lower latency. And I'm sure that the CPaaS vendors are working on solutions, but again, these are going to be very opinionated.
Mm-hmm.
That's my worry, or just an insight that I had looking at the market from the sidelines.
Yeah, no, inevitably with consolidation always comes strong opinions on how to implement things. So I think there's, that's where there's always going to be space too for edge cases and more unique implementations. And that's why I think it's smart for a lot of these providers to offer something that's more of a framework rather than too highly opinionated. So, well, Tsahi, as always, thanks for your insights and sharing those with us today. Anything else you want to add today?
No, enjoy.
All right. Well, good luck to everyone working out there with real-time agents. We'll be certainly interested to hear what you're building with them too, and feel free to reach out to us at WebRTC Ventures and for WebRTC Live about that. So as always, thanks for sharing your insights with us today, Tsahi. And for those who want to learn more about Tsahi's work, check him out at bloggeek.me. To learn more about future episodes of WebRTC Live, check us out at webrtc.ventures. Thanks, Tsahi.
Thank you.